Evening, people. Evening.
Evening, guys.
I think everybody's a bit flat after last night's debacle. But Kenny, how you doing, man?
I'm absolutely. It still hurts. I think what's happened is that people seem to think that because of our feelings across the manager and our opinions on the team and where we want the club to go, it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt when we lose. We're our criticism of Mick Arteta and our criticism of certain players. It's out of passion. We're desperate to win. We're probably like the Bob Willises, God bless his soul, of the Arsenal fan base. We're very critical. We're very hard on the players, hard on the manager. It's because we're so desperate for Arsenal to win. And, I think I never thought I'd feel this disheartened and upset after a football match, but it took me a long time to actually get me composure after the game because it really hurt. That really hurt. And the worst thing about it is that we saw it coming, but when you think about, you're that close to a final, you're that close to going to Munich where you've got a chance of winning the cup with the big ears. And you know me, I always believed that the Premier League is more important, but I fell in love with the competition. I got where you come from, and I felt the same way you guys felt that, I wanted the Champions League and I wanted it just as badly as everyone else. And especially after we beat Real Madrid, but not the B, mate.
Yeah, true. DJ, it's a late stream last night. I was on there for a little bit. Kenny was on, did his fan cam for a little bit. I understand. I haven't watched it, and 13 hours or something that Lee streamed for.
Yeah, crazy.
Wow.
I'll be honest with you, Jez. I was not surprised we went out last night, and I said it from the start. And when we lost 1-0 at the Emirates, in my opinion, the damage was done. I know everyone was, and rightly so, everyone was trying to keep the faith and say, it's only 1-0. I think if we go there and score early, but it didn't happen. And just didn't happen. So I'm like Kenny. I'm really flat. I'm really deflated. You get that close. You have all the euphoria of the Real Madrid game. You think you're in the semi-final, and you actually think that you've learned from your mistakes from last season against Bayern Munich. And if you look at if you look at the Bayern Munich game and look at the PSG 2 legs, there's not a lot of difference. And this is where this manager's not learnt his lesson. And this is the worrying thing about it, Jez, because you'd have thought that having a taste of it last season against Bayern Munich, after being behind, he would have come up with something different. And it wasn't to be. The players are going to be devastated. And I'm like Kenny, whether you're Arteta in or Arteta out, it hurts. And the only reason why it hurts is because we're passionate fans. And when you get fans of our age that's been following the club for many, many years, it hurts even more. And it's really, really, it's a shame, but life goes on. But big up PSG. It's going to be a cracking final, and I shall look forward to watching it.
The only thing is, I think that's left, apart from the loss, the one thing that's left a sour taste in my mouth is Arteta's arrogance.
Yeah.
In saying Arsenal were the best team.
Yeah.
I think that is absolute hypocrisy. Seriously, man. Come on.
Yeah. It's not good.
This guy is hiding behind the fact that he's shit.
Yeah.
And the fact he came out of that absolute arrogant statement, the best team lost. Really?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, because of their goalkeeper. He had an outstanding game. Well, because he's a world-class goalkeeper. And that's what world-class goalkeepers do.
That's his job.
Exactly. And I'm sorry, if you want my honest opinion on it, the game was too big for Lewis Skelly. He looked terrified.
Yeah, it was way too big for him. Yeah,
It's too big for him. He's out of class, and I'm not criticising him.
no,
I think he's a quality player. There's a lot in that young man, but I also think it's going to take him a long time to recover from that.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? To second what you guys have said, we've seen it many a times. There's mainly been if you notice that there were some seasons where as much as we like to say that domestic trophies are the be all and end all of everything, there's something about the Champions League that when we do lose games, it really affects us. It really hurts us. And I think what I've noticed, even under the Wenger years, that if we go out in the Champions League, be it the group stages or in this, like I said, the knockout stages, the knockout stages, there's some seasons where it has affected the players, and it's going into the season. But yeah, Lewis Skelly will be absolutely gutted because he learned that football's not that easy. I think Saliba will have to look at himself and realise, you know what, as good as a defender you are, you still have to work hard. You still have to concentrate, and you've got to realise is that you're playing against really big, good players. You're not playing against teams like Southampton, Leicester, or some of our London neighbours who are good players, but they're not world class players. And that's what he's got to learn. If he wants to be in this company with world class players, he's got to do better. He's got to concentrate more. Let's not forget Kivior. Was part of the problem. Kivior, as well as he's doing, Kivior yesterday in some instances showed why he's the deputy centre half. If you look at the second goal, it's Kivior gave the ball away. He gave the ball away. It's run by Kvaratskhelia, and then Thomas Partey was at sixes and sevens, got robbed by Hakimi, and the goal went in. Let's not forget as well, Declan Rice as well. If he wants to be in that company, as much as your work rate was exemplary in certain occasions, you were part of the problem. You did give away the free kick for that goal because you had heavy touches, and there's quite a few heavy touches for him. My Lord God will have to feel gutted as a leader when the heat was on, and the cook, the chef, turned the oven on turned it from 180 to 240, the highest heat. He didn't show up again. And the same goes for Martinelli. When the oven was turned on hot to its highest heat, both of them were found wanting. Only Bukayo Saka, tried to turn up, and he's not even fit. You know what I mean? But he doesn't escape criticism because he missed a chance that he should be putting away. Again, at this level, regardless of whether it bobbles or not, you've got to score because that's world-class football now.
Yeah, it's sad all round, but it's where we are with this team. Unfortunately, it needs a big shake up in the summer. Players do need to go out the door. And we need to get players in, but I don't know.
The Assembled is saying here quite rightly they need to get rid of him, but before we can't sign any decent.
Yeah, I said it on Lee's stream last night. That's exactly what I said. It's exactly what I said. I said before any players come in, you've got to get rid of the manager.
I can't see any top flight player wanting to come in and play for this. I've been saying it for months and months and months.
Yeah.
I don't see anybody want to come and play for him.
No.
I don't, because he's arrogant, he's narcissistic, it's his way or the highway, and the man is a fraud.
Couldn't agree more.
That statement last night I thought was absolutely disrespectful. And I feel sorry for a lot of those players. I'm not going to blame that young lad, Skelly. He was out of his depth at this point in time in his career. That's all I'm saying. He could be a quality player. He was just out of his depth.
Yeah.
But that manager should have, in my opinion, put on a more experienced left back. We have one.
Yeah, Kieran Tierney.
He has won major trophies. Right?
All the experience.
Yeah, it's got the experience, and I think he'd have done a far better job than that young lad. And I think it's an absolute disgrace what he did to him. The guy was in pieces.
Yeah.
He was.
And then,
go
no, Jez, I can't agree with you more. And then to substitute him straight after the handball incident.
What's that say to you?
Bad poor man management. But the thing we've got is that Mick Arteta it essentially likes to work with younger players. You saw what happened when he worked with the players of more experience. We all know about the Aubameyang situation. We know the Mesut Ozil situation. He farmed out and sold a lot of our more experienced players because obviously he worked out quickly that certain players with a lot of experience are going to be barrack lawyers. They are going to remember. Is his first managerial job. You've got someone like Mesut Ozil who won things at Real Madrid under Jose Mourinho. He's worked with Jose Mourinho. He's got a coach. He's got his first job. He's going to think, hang on here. He's going to talk. He's going to ask questions of Mick Arteta and challenge him. Aubameyang worked for Jurgen Klopp and Thomas Tuchel, I believe, or one of them. Either so, they're big managers. David Luiz worked with big managers. Mourinho, he worked at PSG with as well with big managers. So all those players with experience, they're going to look at Arteta and say, "Hang on here, it's going to go two ways. Either this guy's going to try and marginalise me, or he's going to look for my help and look for me to advise." And Arteta chose to do the latter. He got the squad he wanted, unfortunately, and which is where the frustration comes from all of us, is that he's never accountable because this is his team. It's not that there's no player that I recognise from the Emery era in his team. Obviously, Saka played. Obviously, Tierney was there, but they weren't exactly like big names. Tierney was just signed that season. He had a few injuries, so he didn't actually start as a left back. Bukayo Saka was brought into the team sparingly by Unai Emery. So, essentially, this is Mikel's team. Unfortunately, once we are a carbon copy of the Poch's Spurs team between, throughout his reign, between 2014 and 2019. Yeah, we've got similar records. We've got a similar record, and we've got the fact that we're robust, but when it came to the big games where you can win trophies, they floundered as well, just like us.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, no, facts, man.
Very, very true. Very, very true. And some good comments as well. As David says from down in New Zealand, all this talk about Isco, Sesko and Grokeres is just talk. None of these players want to work with Arteta. That's the problem. I can't see it. But ROW says, big up, fellas. Great show. Big up to you, my friend. Thanks for watching. And smash the likes and sub if you're new, people. It does help the channel grow and help put the content out. Nico says, big up, Jez, Kenny K and DJB from Sweden, Stockholm. The land of the best strikers who don't want to go to Arsenal. Yeah, well, there we go. That sums it up. Hit the like button, people. 850 million for this, says Rels. Yeah, there we are. I just find it amazing. Any other club in Europe with this abject failure by now would have kicked that bloke out the door.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate, you ain't good enough. Time for you to walk.
Yeah.
But I see today, gents, there's still people defending him.
Yeah.
Give him another year. He's improved the squad. He's improved the club. We were in a mess under Emery. I don't think we were in a mess under Emery at all. I actually think Emery was doing all right. And then he got binned off, this clown. And yet people are backing him up. What for? What for? I don't understand it. I really don't. But I'm going to ask you, Kenny, your opinion on it, then we're going to get into the show.
Well, the fact is that there's still people who have that narrative that look where we come from, and those people are entitled to their opinions. But when it becomes the opinion, I have a problem with that. because they're doing now in Arsenal Football Club. They're saying that things were so bad. Yeah, they were bad, but the fact is you can't live off a rebuild. You can't live off progression. You can't live off progress. All these sort of buzzwords that these guys like to use. The fact is that one thing is factual, and one thing is an opinion. The opinion is, for a lot of Arsenal fans, is that how do we know that the next boss is going to give success?
Right.
The question they ask is, who else will you get? Both questions, both prerogative, and both traps, which they want to get people with dissenting voices into. But one thing they never discuss is that the facts are, and the evidence is, we know that under this boss, we haven't had success, and he's not a successful boss. So those are facts that these guys don't want to talk about. They want to talk about, the progress he made. They want to talk about the process, but he never accept that he's got himself into positions similar to the positions that Pochettino got Spurs into, and like Pochettino, he was unable to see it through. And when you're unable to see it through, it's time for a change, because at the end of the day, there's still a good fulcrum of players at the football club. However, they need someone who's capable of taking them to the next level. Mikel Arteta has had chances. Forget the fact that I never wanted him in the club. Forget the fact that I've been calling for him to be replaced. The natural cycle of a football manager is about 5 to 6 years, regardless of whether you're successful or not. And then, players want to hear a different voice. Maybe owners think they know too much and they start sticking their nose in because they want to be part of their success. And what the owners have done is they got Berta in. Now, I'll tell you one thing, right? But it won't be results that will remove Mikel Arteta from the helm. It will be Berta, because simple reason, Berta will have his own opinion on players. And Berta's job, as we all know, is to deal with player contracts, get rid of players, and get players in. And they're going to clash over all three. That's what happens in football. Football is where the sporting director, these are three things that, causes problems between the sporting director and the manager. Sales, recruitment, and player contracts. Maybe managers' contracts as well.
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay. DJ, what do you think, mate?
Yeah, well, I've said it. I always think that if a manager has been in the job for 5, going on for 6 years, and had considerable amount of money, and he hasn't got us where we need to be, and you then can see signs of things deteriorating as well. I look at the players on the park. I look at players not improving under the manager. So that's another red flag for me. When you've got a squad of players and you're looking at your top players and they're not improving, that's another red flag for me. And one of the questions I always say is, would you have Gareth Southgate at Arsenal?
No.
And all the Gooners and every Arsenal fan would probably turn around and go, no. And then you ask the next question, why is that then? Because he don't win nothing. He didn't win nothing. He had all that with England, all the best players to choose from, and he didn't win anything. Well, this bloke's no different. The only difference is with this bloke is that instead of having all the players from all the other clubs, he's had all the money. And he still hasn't been able to get over the line. So, you have to ask the question, and it's nothing personal against Arteta, but now he's post-press conference speeches, they're just getting worse. They're getting desperate. And people are starting to pick up on this. And all of these signs rub through on the team. And the team pick up on it. The players pick up on it. So there has to be a change. And I said that if it's done quickly, you've got time to turn this team around. Because you'll have all the pre-season, they'll go away on their tours, he'll have all the training to do with them, he'll get to know them all through the summer, he'll work different ways, the players will get to know the new manager, Berta will bring them the money in, whatever money's there, new players are coming, and it's a fresh start, and this is how we've got to be. You know, you got to remember the team we went out to last night sold Neymar, Mbappe, and Messi, and within 18 months, he's won trophies and he's got them to a Champions League final. 18 months. So it don't take 5 years. It don't take 6 years. Don't kid yourself that it takes time and it's a process. It doesn't. If you're good enough and tactically aware, you know how to get the best out of them players. And I said it last night, his plan B, and his only plan B last night, was Thomas Partey, who's played under great managers, taking throw-ins and throwing them into the box, long ball tactics. The goalkeeper telling all these players to get downfield and he's pumping it long. It was like watching the Crazy Gang, Stoke City. It was Tony Pulis FC.
No, you see, what about Jack Charles, Republic of Ireland? Because Jack Charles, Republic of Ireland, they suppressed from the front and win all the little scraps, and they used to play the work on set.
But then they had midfield players that were happy and brave enough to pick up the scraps and the dead pieces. They had people up front to go and win a ball in the air. We ain't got that. And now we're also seeing what Mourinho's like. When he was put up front to do a job, for the first 5-6 games, he was on adrenaline. He was like a kid in a sweet shop. Oh, I'm up front. I'm doing a centre forward. And he scored a few goals, but you can see the real Mourinho. He's not good enough for this team. No. So that's where I'm at, my friend. I've always said it, and it's time to change. And as the great Claude RIP would have said, it's time to go.
Facts. Big up to Oregon Gooner Doubt. How you doing, mate? Thank you for your super chat. Hope you're well, Jezza. Yeah, flat today, mate. Gutted, but we saw it coming, mate. We all did. We all saw it. But let's get back into the real times. And it's quite an interesting comment you made. It doesn't take 5 years to win something, because the year that Arsenal became 100 years old, on December the 27th, 1986, you guys will remember it. At that game, out came Ted Drake, Joe Mercer, great players for the club. Arsenal had gone on a 17-game unbeaten run under new manager, a certain Jules Graham, ex-player, nicknamed Stroller. We all know that one. And this guy's come in from Millwall, right, who were a mediocre club, doing nothing really in Div 2, and walked into Arsenal, obviously, did the job. And all of a sudden, we went on a 22-game unbeaten run. Then we had the infamous Man United game. Not many people remember that one, but that was a massive punch-up game. And at Old Trafford. And then we went into a League Cup because, unfortunately, after the 22-game run, we went into a capitulation and lost game after game, drew, lost, drew. And the league had gone. But what George Graham did, he switched his priority. We went out of the FA Cup. We then went on to the League Cup. Cup we'd never won. Never won it in our lives. Been in a few finals, Swindon and Leeds United in the late 60s. But we then had if you remember it, 3 games against Tottenham in the semi-final to get to Wembley. Got to Wembley, and we were playing one, without a doubt, at the time, the greatest team in England, Liverpool. Best team in England at that time, no question, no doubt. They were unstoppable. They were a juggernaut. yet, guys, we also had another thing in a gentleman by the name of Martin Hayes, as we remember him.
Yeah.
I mean, he still to this day holds the club record for the amount of penalties scored in one season, 12. Right? Little known fact, but it is truth. And we go to Wembley League Cup final, and we have a certain player who'd signed before us after Don Howe had walked out the door, and Steve Burtonshaw, the previous season. We faced Liverpool in the League Cup final, something we'd never won before.
Mm.
Charlie Nicholas steps up, scores 2 goals, and we win it. So it is possible, people, to win something in your first season. Kenny, the floor is yours.
Yeah, that the thing is, it's quite ironic when you talk about that season, but it's how George got the job as well. George was not our first choice. You know, the club were speaking to David Dean, of course, was speaking to Terry Venables, because Terry Venables was about to manage Barcelona in the European Cup final, because they're playing Steaua Bucharest. They lost that final in Sevilla, and believe it or not, Don Howe got wind of it, and he left. He actually quit during the Easter holidays of '86. So it was a case that Steve Burtonshaw took charge, and then it was a case of, obviously we now know that the club also spoke to Sir Alex Ferguson, who turned them down. But the leaks was that Terry Venables was about to get a job, and then George Graham got it in May of that year, and I'm glad we got it that year, because we went really early, because it's actually quite ironic. At basically the same day, Spurs announced that they appointed Luton Town's manager, David Pleat. So David Pleat got his job the same period as George Graham. And then we go into pre-season, and we don't really buy players. When you talked about Martin Hayes, well, Martin Hayes was about to be sold to Huddersfield by Arsenal that season. So, and then somehow the move fell through. So Martin Hayes was about to stay at the club. We didn't have a centre forward as such. Remember, Tony Woodcock and Paul Mariner left on frees because they couldn't negotiate their wages. Martin Keown had a falling out with the club over principle, so he went to Aston Villa. Yeah. So at that time, Tony Adams at the end of the 85-86 season was not our centre half alongside Dave O'Leary. It was Martin Hayes who was actually getting games that season. So that left the way for Tony Adams to get in the team. And then obviously you had Rocastle, who started games under Don Howe. He began to be a bit of a fixture. And Niall Quinn was the only forward we had, because remember, Niall Quinn scored in his debut against Liverpool, and then afterwards it was basically the old guard of Woodcock and Mariner. So Niall Quinn was just pushed straight into the side. We had Viv Addiston still had his experience. We had Johnny Lukic still, so that was a lot of experience. And obviously, but Martin Hayes, out of nowhere, that season he scored 24 goals in league and cup goals. But second to what Jay said, one of the things that first thing George Graham said, this club is a beast, is a sleeping giant, and I want to awake it. And he just knew from then that something good was going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that team in 86-87 is my favourite team. The reason why it's my favourite team is because of the fact that it made me believe that Arsenal could be a force. I got carried away like a lot of fans. We went on that 22-match unbeaten run. We lost against Liverpool in the second game of the season, and we just went on that run. We beat actually Everton from a Steve Williams corner kick, direct for a corner kick. You remember that at Goodison Park? And then we just went win after win over Christmas. We beat Wimbledon, we beat Luton. We were just actually pummeling teams. And then obviously Man United came along. But one thing we were doing really well was that we had the FA Cup. We were doing quite well. Obviously, we lost to the quarterfinals, and then
Luton Jack was it Luton?
That League Cup Spurs. We had no right to be in that final. We had no right to be in that final against Scotland because the other day Clive Allen who knew, scored at Highbury against his old team. And then it was a case where, I don't know what it was, because it was that team, and because we beat them at White Hart Lane that season, on the 4th of January, 87, Paul Davis and Tony Adams, I actually thought that we could still go and win it. I never had any belief that Spurs were going to get to that final. I thought, you know what, we've beaten them before at White Hart Lane, we could do it again. But you didn't really have much hope because Clive Allen scored, Viv Anderson bowled it in there, and then Noel Quinn scored a brilliant goal. And then in the replay, Clive Allen scored again, and Ian Allinson, or Baldock, Hertfordshire, came in, got the equaliser, and then after that, David Rocastle came, and I thought, that's when I thought, you know what, we've got nothing to lose. But I'll tell you one thing now, any of you guys thought we were going to win the final when Ian Rush got that goal, you're liars, because it was a time when whenever Ian Rush scored, Liverpool never lost. And I thought we'd lose it when Ian Rush scored. Yeah. But for some reason, I thought, hang on here, we got this George Graham, who's given the player a lot of belief. He's basically showed that we can mix it with the big boys. We've got nothing to fade off. And I thought, you know what, let's have a go. As soon as Charlie Nicholas got that equaliser, I thought we'd win it. I really thought we'd win it when Charlie Nicholas got that equaliser. And then put a trophy on that table for the first time. Remember, we went 8 years without winning a trophy. And I think from then on, it brought belief into the team. Obviously, the season afterwards, we finished 6th under George Graham. We again got to the final against Luton Town. And then obviously we got to the FA Cup quarterfinals, lost to Nottingham Forest. Great goal by Kevin Wilkinson. And then it was where, even though we didn't win anything, when we finished, I think we finished 6th that season, there was periods where we were, us Liverpool were first and second, and then we, like 87, we fell away. But one thing it did show is that we may not have been ready to win the league in those 2 years, but we were gaining experience of participating in big games. Obviously, there was no European football because of Heysel, but we were participating in big games. Players were getting experience. Obviously, Michael Thomas came at the side after Viv Anderson, went to Man United for the money. Kenny Sampson was still at the side. And then what we did is we signed Nigel Winterburn from Wimbledon. But George Graham wasn't decisive. He played him at right back, believe it or not. Remember that, Jim?
Yeah.
Nigel played at right back. Kenny Sampson played at left back.
Yeah. 600,000 we bought Nigel Winterburn for.
And then obviously the George Graham's best ever buy for me wasn't Ian Wright. It was actually Alan Smith, because that season in 86-87, Alan Smith was playing for Leicester.
He was the catalyst
on Easter Monday. We beat Leicester 4-1. Alan Smith was playing for Leicester. He scored a goal for Leicester. I think he scored for Leicester City, and we were all cheering him. And
because the deal was, I think the deal was already done.
Yeah, the deal was already done, so we knew
the deal was already agreed. It was verbally agreed. Yeah. And I remember when Smudger scored that goal, Arsenal were cheering him because they knew he was our player.
And actually, I got a bit of comedy as well. Do you remember that season when Glenn Hoddle and Chris Waddle had that hit in the charts, Diamond Lights?
Oh God!
Yeah.
Well, Easter Monday that day in the crowd, the stadium announcer played it, and the fans went absolutely berserk. They played Diamond Lights, and the stadium announcer went. He actually went, look, I know you guys are upset, but we got to play. My remit is to play music that's in the charts at the time, and everyone was just swearing and booing, throwing things.
It was absolutely
funny, but it was one of those things where 86 to 88 was where he did the rebuild, and then after that, towards the end of the 87-88 season, he bought Winterburn and Bowles from Stoke City, and that's where the rebuild came, and that's where we came.
I mean, he was very clever in the fact that he used the League Cup as a catalyst to build his teams and get confidence in what he was doing, and give the club faith in him as well. When he won that Little Woods Cup, I remember a young Perry Groves skipping down the wing to set up Charlie Nicholas. All of £85,000, by the way. Perry Groves cost phenomenal amount of money. Remember him just dancing down the wing and getting in that cross.
Well, it's wages now, mate.
Yeah, and Charlie Nicholas was a good signing for us at the time as well, because he worked hard to get Charlie to convince him, because he was a bit of a model, bit of a glamour boy at the time, like the nightlife, and he handled him quite well, really. And he scored some vital goals, Charlie Nicholas. One thing that Charlie Nicholas had, he had fantastic movement off the ball in the box. He created, he's sort of like where he used to duck in and then duck out and create space, was perfect. And if you look at the goal that we scored against Liverpool, he's caught us checked towards the penalty spot and then checked out, and the defender was lost. But going back on the Terry Venables, we could have actually signed him in 1976 as our manager, but he'd already reached an agreement with Crystal Palace at the time. And then, as Kenny rightly said, so in 1976, we went after Terry Venables. His dad was a keen Arsenal fan, and he always wanted Venables at Arsenal. And that's one of the reasons why Venables was always kind of keen to come. And then we tried again before we got George Graham. So we might not have ever had George Graham, and the rest might have been history. But, you know, when we got him, a lot of Arsenal fans were kind of bit like with Arteta when he joined. They was all a little bit, really, you know, George Graham, you know, what, it's all right as a player, but is he going to bring, what experience has he got? And there was a lot of questions being asked, but he was very, very shrewd. And the way he used to talk to the players were very kind of off the cuff, you know. He always used to instill in the players how big the club was and how important it was to play for Arsenal. And not only how important it was to play for Arsenal, how privileged it was to play for the Arsenal. So he was using all of his own playing experience in the 70s in his managerial, you know. And he said, I when I used to go out on the field to play, no one liked Arsenal. Everyone wanted to beat Arsenal because of what they stood for, their history, their tradition. A lot of clubs were envious of that. And he instilled that into the players right from day one, you know, and the players always went out and played with their heart on their sleeve. But we did have some, you know, as Kenny alluded to, we did have some really rough periods under George Graham. We weren't scoring a lot of goals. We weren't really creating goals.
1-0.
The football weren't pretty, and at that time, there was a lot of the Arsenal faithful starting to turn.
Oh, you know what it is, DJB? I think we started. I think what it was. Obviously, we're moving a bit forward. What it was is that after '91, we were expected to be like the team to challenge Liverpool. At the time, we thought Liverpool were going to go and create a dynasty, and it never really happened. And then what you had in the first season of the Premiership, you had Norwich City playing fantastic football, and then you had Man United getting their act together, Aston Villa getting their act together. But what we had was Jack Walker's money at Blackburn, and he was getting Shearer, Lasso, Ripley, you know, Gallagher, you know, all those sort of players. You know what I mean? And it was one of those things. He had first dibs on the best players, and then the rest were left for Man United. And another thing as well was that we were seeing like exciting football. Obviously, Nottingham Forest were coming at the end with Brian Clough, but they were playing good stuff. Man United were playing with wingers. Norwich were playing good football, and Aston Villa had a very good, playing some nice football with under Ron Atkinson at the time. And ironically, if you think about the 91-92 season, that season after we knocked out of everything, after we knew we were in the league, from about January up until the end of the season, we scored a lot of goals, DJB. We were smashing Sheffield Wednesday 7-1 at Highbury, beat Liverpool 4-0.
Yeah.
We smashed Southampton home and away. Ian Wright came at the side, couldn't stop scoring. Kevin Campbell scored as well. And initially, when the Premiership was established, Andy Gray made Arsenal favourites for the Premiership. And he made Kevin Campbell that team. But what happened is that we didn't have a midfield and we started playing the ball over the top for one player, Ian Wright. I think, sorry, Arsenal fans, and I love Ian Wright is a legend, but I think Ian Wright, when he came to the side, because he was such a good finisher and because he loved the ball over the top and he liked
Fox in the box.
Fox in the box. We played the ball forward a bit too quickly, and unfortunately, he scored the goals, but no one else scored. Yeah, and that made us a bit of a weak side.
It made us a one-man team, but he was still at the time, and as you said, towards the end of the season, we did start to score a lot of goals. But then when Ian Wright came on board, it gave us an out. We then started to kind of, as you said, play the long ball, bypass the midfield a bit, knowing that Ian Wright could run onto it and stuff like that. And at the time, Ian Wright was much needed because it sort of kick-started our season, which is what we needed. But I mean, at the time, when you think that Norwich team as well, they were a really tough team. You know, they had like Mark Walton, Paul Blades, you know, players like this. I don't know whether Tim Sherwood was at Norwich at the time.
Tim Sherwood left Norwich in '92 to go to Blackburn.
He did, but in 91, he was at Norwich, wasn't he?
He was at Norwich, remember?
He was a brilliant. So you had all these teams, and they were a very, very attacking team, but he started to build the defence as well when he bought Bold and when he bought Winterburn. Then he got Dixon for sort of 600,000 from crazy prices he played for him. And then what he then started to do, he started to actually make the back four solid. But as Kenny alluded to, the midfield still was a bit, areas.
Asking a question here. Question for the panel. I'm too young to remember. Was Paul Davis a good player for Arsenal?
Very good player.
Excellent player.
Intelligent ball player. Brilliant.
We got now.
Brilliant player.
Yeah, he had a lot of time on the ball, didn't he, DJB? He had a lot of time on the ball, and his pass was a very
good pass. Loved him. Yeah, he loved Paul
Davis. He had a good long pass, and a good short pass.
Yeah. I'm not being watched here, but
he was hard to knock off the ball, even though he was slightly built. He was strong. You know, one of those players where you couldn't knock him off the ball.
He was the equivalent player. If I was to look at Paul Davis, I would say that he was very, very similar. Probably not as good because this is no disrespect to Paul Davis, but he was very, very similar to Trevor Brooking.
West
Ham. He was that kind of player. His vision wasn't really fast, wasn't really pacey, but he had good vision, good feet, could see a pass. He was very, very similar to Trevor Brooking in the style of play. If anyone knows who Trevor Brooking is, I'm sure they do. Great player. He was a good player, Paul Davis. But he's a the 91 and in
72 question for the panel. As an outsider, has the Arsenal fan base always been as deluded as they are now under Arteta?
No.
It's weird to see. It wasn't like this under Wenger. Not in the early days. No. I don't understand how it's gone down this road myself personally.
No, but this is another virus that Arteta has spread amongst the club. Unfortunately, deluded fans. See what you'll get with what I always do, because I love football. I obviously love our football club and Arsenal, but I've always been kind of respectful for other teams because I know what it's like to follow a football team. And it doesn't matter what team you support. I know the effort it takes to follow them. And if you're like me and you, Jez and Kenny and all the others that are watching, my roots with this football club go back a long time. I've said it before. My granddad was a programme seller. My uncles used to work on the turnstiles on North Bank. I had cousins that used to play in the youth team. I had uncles that used to be used to mow the lawn on Highbury. Family grew up just literally down the road from Highbury. So it's in your DNA. So that's why when you get a result like last night, and you get deluded fans still think that we were the better team and stuff like that, and disrespect other teams, it don't really wash well with me, to be honest. That's when I get really annoyed.
Nor me either. Right, we'll skip over 87, 88, because nothing really happened. And then, of course, we enter into the 88, 89, the 50,000 that went to Anfield.
Yeah.
After the horrendous thing that happened at Hillsborough.
Yeah.
Arsenal were cruising it.
Mm.
And then Liverpool, what happened with the semi-final of the Liverpool Forest FA Cup was horrendous, never to be forgotten. And we sort of fell off the cliff a little bit.
We did.
And basically, Liverpool came back and started playing again and went on a mad run, caught us up, and it all came down to that one eventful night. The one eventful night, gentlemen, where so many fans were there. I mean, come on, man. You know, it's laughable. But it was an amazing, amazing season. Excuse me. An amazing season. We'd started brightly. We'd done so well. We had a better midfield, in my opinion. But nobody can deny that's probably one of the greatest games of football in modern history, because simply we were at Anfield. We hadn't won there since '74, and we've got to go to Anfield, 1989, late night, and play under the lights to beat the great Liverpool team of that period in time. They were a great team. Nobody can deny that. What they'd achieved, what they'd won. Kenny Dalglish was the manager, and what a player he had been for Liverpool. And I wasn't confident at all. I won't lie. I was not confident at all. And in fact, going there was a lot of talk going, it's going to be a big, tough one, this one. It's a big ask and everything. But, Kenny, we did it. We did it.
We definitely. But I think you've got to sort of segue back to the season, because by that time, obviously, we've already had Lee Dixon and Bold on board. Obviously, we still had David O'Leary in the team. We had Tony Adams. Obviously, it was a case where there was going to be a casualty. David O'Leary wasn't going to play many games, but there were times when if we went to a back three, David O'Leary could play. And let's not forget, obviously, Nigel Winterburn was our regular left back now, because Kenny Sampson was sold to Newcastle. Obviously, he had a falling out with George Graham the season before, because he went to the newspapers and complained about he wasn't happy, but that Nigel Winterburn was pushing him for his place, and he wasn't happy with the money that was on offer as well. So we did that. Obviously, Alan Smith had his first full season, 87, 88, got into double figures, but he learnt the Arsenal way. So he started on his pomp. And obviously, in midfield we had Kevin Richardson, and we signed in 1987, signed from Watford. So he was a fixture in the midfield. By that time we'd got rid of players like Steve Williams. We went to Luton Town. So we're beginning to build a team that was a bit of a machine. Obviously, by that time, Mickey Thomas was venturing in the midfield. We already had Paul Davis. So we had a very, very strong team. And of course, Wimbledon, the first game of the season, where Player Lane, a team you don't want to go to, but we absolutely ruined them. We ruined them, absolutely ruined them. And then part of that team as well. 2 weeks later, we had the North London Derby, which I attended, where it was one of the scariest things ever because me and my brother got crushed. Because obviously, you can imagine that a more serious crush happened in April of the following April in Sheffield. But that time, me and my brother got the 279 from Finsbury Park. 279 was going from Finsbury Park. Got on a bus, walked to the away end because my brother went and bought the tickets the day before from the club because they sold them for 10 quid. So he got the 20 quid. We bought them from the club shop, the away ticket, because they advertised it on Club Call. There were still tickets available from North London Club. So we got there, and as we were coming in, we were all at the front, and then these drunk tossers. There must have been about 50 of them. Yeah, 50 of them. But then there may have been about 1,000. You know where you get pushed down the front. They must have come in and went, bundle. So they pushed.
The guys, was it?
Yeah, but I don't know who they were, but they pushed the guys right in the back. And as you're right at the back, when you push forward, everyone goes forward, and we were near the front, near the gates. Yeah. So me and my brother, you know, like when you can't breathe, it was like we felt this pain in our chest. We got, and thankfully because there wasn't like pens. There was it was basically like a full area where there was no pens. We could push back and then move side and then get our breath back. But for a good minute or so, we couldn't breathe because those arseholes came in and then pushed forward. And I never thought about it, but I thought, bloody hell, you know, standing room only. It's not always that same. And I remember because that's the first real crush that we're in. But even so, the game was over by half time. It was a fantastic game. We won 3-2. Alan Smith, Brian Marwood, and Nigel Whittenburn got the goals. And Gazza scored his first goal for Tottenham with his shot, and Chrissy Waddle got the goals for Spurs. Yeah. But one thing I do remember, yes, we do Mars bars were thrown at Paul Gascoigne, and yes, we did keep him in the freezer, just like the Paul shot. So we made sure they were nice and hard, and throwing at him. So yes, we did do that.
That game. I don't know why I missed that game.
Yeah, but it was that season where we went on a bit of a run, and up until like January, there was only one team who were going to win the league.
Oh, we were flying.
Yeah, but one thing I do remember about it is that we had the kind of a rivalry with Liverpool because we played them in the League Cup, and we went to replay at Villa Park, which they won, and then there was this kind of like Mercantile Cup thing as well, where we played them as well. So we had a few games with Liverpool in the Mercantile Cup and the League Cup. Plus, obviously, we drew them at Highbury when Johnny Barnes got their goal. So it was a case of us running away with it, but we always knew that Liverpool come good in the second season because by that time Liverpool lost at home to Norwich, they lost at home to Newcastle, they drew in the Merseyside derby of Everton, where they were go up. So they were dropping points left, right, and centre. And, you know, they'll go to away games, they'll struggle against to beat teams like Millwall, whilst we'll go in there and beating teams. And then in February, drew at home to Charlton, started having silly results. And then on the eve of Easter Saturday, I think we lost to Derby. Dean Saunders got one of the
Derby,
goals.
Was it 2-1?
2-1 Derby.
Yeah.
And then there was a Monday Easter. Do you remember the Bank Holiday Monday game when we won 5-0 when we played absolutely brilliant football?
Oh, the football was brilliant.
Alan Smith got the ball in the chest with a half volley, bang in the back of the net. And I thought, we believed again. And then Wimbledon at home. Wimbledon at home. Can you believe it? Wimbledon at home. Nigel Whittenburn scores with his right foot from 30 yards. I repeat, Nigel Whittenburn.
I remember it to this day. I actually remember it. The roof lifted off.
And then John, I think Wimbledon equalised through Alan Cork, and then Paul Mercer makes it 2-1 second half, and then a guy called McGee, an Irish player from Dublin, who we never heard of a game, scored their goal. But
yeah, he was thrown in because someone was injured. I think he was only
but
brought in.
you know, my mate swears to this day. He swears to this day because we were in the North Bank. He was swearing that the Wimbledon players were wanting us to win so badly that they're actually telling us where to move, and they weren't even marking us. I swear to God, my mate Anthony Gibbons swears to this day, and Lloyd Coote swear that John Fashanu and Vinnie Jones were basically.
I remember. No, go on, mate.
Trying towards the end when it was 2-2 because they wanted us to get the winner because they didn't want Liverpool to win the league.
I just remember when they scored that second goal to make it 2-2. I just remember looking at my mate and him looking at me and going, "You know what this means now, don't you?" And he went, "Yeah, I know." Because we knew we had to go then to Anfield and win, but we just didn't know what the permutations were. And I remember him saying to me, "We're going to do it though, aren't you?" And I went, "Yeah, I think we'll do it, but you know." But I remember coming out of that game, and all I was doing was like, "Please, we fucked it up. We fucked it up." I couldn't sleep at night. I was all over the place after that game, that Wimbledon game. We really done our best to absolutely ruin it. And then when we went to Anfield, I just remember the whole day. I couldn't sleep the night before. It was a Friday night game.
I did Sam's. I
couldn't sleep the night before. It was a Friday night. We got up there.
Were you excited though, guys, going up there?
Oh,
26th of May.
Nothing like it.
You know. Ironically, I was still at school then. I was at secondary school, in Archway, St Aloysius College, Archway, giving everyone a shout from St Aloysius College, Archway. I was living at Andover Estate, giving Andover Estate a shout. Obviously, on the border of 6 acres and Hayden Court, and and I'll tell you now, all of these, like, for some reason, my brother went up to me and said, "I think we're going to win." What? Yeah, no, we all thought we'll win, but we didn't think we thought we'll win, but we'll still lose the title. We thought we'd win about 1-0 or 2-1.
It was a really
win the title.
It was a really, I don't know if you remember it, Jez, but it was a really, really somber beginning. It was like an end of season kind of atmosphere, really, where the league was sort of.
I think it was very flat. I remember when I was travelling up there. You know, we had a little, I think it was a 16-seater mini coach. We made our own way up there, and it was every one of us in that was flat. We were like, well, you know, it's going to be a massive arse going there. We haven't done that well there for all these years. You know, we've thrown it away again. Ironic. And the atmosphere at the game was totally different.
Yeah.
When he got through the turnstiles into the Anfield Road end, it was absolutely electric.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
If you touch the person next to you, you're going to get electric shock.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that. And but you know, we've all watched the game a million times. The thing is, how George Graham, in my opinion, organised that team that night was exceptional.
I took the way he see, if you're comparing last night's result to the 89, let's say we compare last night's result to the 89. 89 we needed 2 goals to win. Last night we needed 2 goals to win. And the difference in the managers and the way tactically he went about it was miles and miles and miles and levels. No player panicked. You know, they closed Liverpool down. They didn't allow them any time on the ball because they were a great side, Liverpool. They never closed. They closed them down at every opportunity. The defence was constantly talking all the time, getting them pushed up onto the halfway line, pinning them in when they could. even on throw-ins, they weren't letting them out. But they weren't, everything, and they just done it easy. If the ball needed clearing, it'd clear. If it needed going off for a throw-in, it'd go out for a throw-in. Right. Let's worry about it now. Let's worry about it when it comes back into play. And then as the game went on, I remember the crowd really got behind the team. And I said, if we can score one goal, if we can go in at one, if we can score one, I think we'll get another one. And when that goal went in, when he flicked it off his head and it went in, and it honestly, Jez, it was pandemonium in there, wasn't it? It was like, it was incredible. I've never been to an Arsenal game like it. It just went absolutely chaos, and it just did not stop from that moment in. But when he came out in the second half, I'm thinking, he still didn't go all guns blazing, did he? I thought, do you know what I mean? I thought, oh, this is it. He's going to really but he didn't. He just kept it playing. The players just knew what they had to do. McMahon was being closed down. They weren't allowing Barnes any space. He tactically got it absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. And yeah, the rest is just history, man. And
I've got some good questions that have are pinned, basically. On this one, very quickly. First of all, Dale, thank you, mate, for your super chat. With Graham going to Spurs, do you hold bad grudges? I don't personally. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care.
I did at the time. Because my hatred of Spurs, being a North London boy, was very great. And I was desperate for Leicester City to beat them in the '99 Cup. League Cup final. But at that time, when George Graham went to Arsenal, I was in a sort of phase where I hung on every word that Arsene Wenger said. I thought Arsene Wenger at the time was a better man than George Graham. And I was actually very critical of George Graham's football. And I thought, well, isn't it a breath of fresh air to play this, basically what's the Harlem Globetrotters every week at Highbury.
No, it was great, wasn't it, under Wenger?
When I mellowed, and when he actually left Spurs, when he got sacked, and I look back and that's the '86 team. I look back at our record in Europe, because at that time, it began to dawn on me that we probably won't win much in Europe under Arsene Wenger. I thought, you know what, it's very close between these two. And then when Arsene Wenger went on his no-shows when we got to Emirates, it was clear to me, it was night and day, that George Graham was the better manager than Arsene Wenger.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he definitely was. He definitely was. But that was a great team. And, we had good players, going to Anfield. They all believed in themselves. Remember Lee Dixon, when he got that ball, and he said he couldn't fit. I remember in one of the interviews, he said, I couldn't feel my legs. He said, I don't know what was on the end of my feet. He said, I just couldn't feel my legs. He said, all I saw was Smudger making a run. He said, and all I wanted to do was just kick it as hard as I can towards him. And that was it. That's all he remembers. And then do you remember the Winterburn celebration when he went running off? I think he went running off at the stadium. He went running around the back of the Liverpool goal with his arm, with the one arm up. He's literally, he never knew where to run. Everyone was like, he didn't know where to run. But do you know the one thing I remember? When that second goal went in, Jez, I don't know if you got it where you were standing, but there wasn't like an instant. Everyone went mad, but then it was a bit as if VAR was around then. Do you know what I mean? It kind of went. It was like a really, for about 10 seconds. It was like, has that just gone in? Is that a goal? It was like a VAR check. That VAR check. Hang on a minute. Is it a goal? It was shocked. It was just shocked. And then and then I was just praying for the whistle. And then I remember my mate, because when the film come out, I phoned him up and I said, it's exactly what you said to me. First thing he turned around to me and said is, you watch, they'll go up the other end and score now. And in that film, I forget the actor's name now, chat will know. He said it to his mate, didn't he, when he was in the film.
Oh, you're talking about Colin Firth.
Yeah, Colin Firth. He went, how long left? He went, you watch, they'll go up the other end and score now. And this is exactly what my mate told me in the terrace. He said, oh, you watch, they'll go and score now. And I went, shut up, no, they won't. Keep the faith. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, great time.
I mean, when that goal went in, right, Mickey Thomas, right, I just remember when it all went mental, I must have gone down 10 steps on the terrace. I remember crashing into two girls, right, and it was like I didn't know who they were, and it was just like everybody's like hugging each other and jumping up and down. It was just incredible, and like it was just amazing.
I'm jealous that you guys were there, because you thing about it is that I'm really jealous, but there's a 1% of me who's glad that I was in North London, because whilst you guys were in Liverpool,
that's what I missed.
In North London, it was absolute pandemonium.
Yeah, that's what I missed. Really.
Basically, if you went round the streets of Islington, if you went through Finchley Park, Highbury, Hollow Road, there was no traffic. Everyone in Islington, whether you supported us or not, and obviously 99% of us are gooners, we stopped what we were doing and we watched the match. In Andover Estate, we watched the game. In 6 Acres, we watched the game. And I swear to God, you could hear a pin drop. I had my mum was there. I actually had relatives come over. I don't think they came over, but you know when relatives come over, I come from a background. They talk and they shout.
Yeah.
That game, I said, please keep your voices down or go to the kitchen. One noise, because Arsenal are playing. This is the biggest game. I was 17 and I dictated, I want no noise. Shut up, get out, or don't come here. I actually berated my mum and saying, why do you invite people here when the big game's happening?
Kenny, I'll tell you, we had, between all us three, we had the best experience then, because you had the North London experience, the aftermath of the euphoria, and me and Jezza had the different experiences at the game.
It was unbelievable, man.
When we got back to Highbury, like I remember when we got back, we had a private hire mini coach. But when we got back to Avenel Road, people were putting bunting up already. They were already putting the bunting up, and there was Arsenal stuff coming out the windows, and that was like got to be 4, 5 in the morning.
Oh,
yeah.
It was
party.
You know how it was. When first and foremost, when Alan Smith scored the goal, I don't know what it was like for you at the ground, but on the TV you could see the referee going to the lino.
Yes,
and they had a bit of a chat. And on the TV you could see Ronnie Whelan. There was a captain that day, Ronnie Whelan.
So
you could still there, but we could see on the TV screens. And we actually thought because of the length of the discussion,
it's going to disallow it.
They'll disallow it. I don't know what it was like on the ground, but we saw the TV monitors.
Exactly
and believe it or not, when the referee points to a certain circle, everyone in the house, and you could hear all the noises, everyone went berserk. But there was what we saw again is that it was kind of an even game. Liverpool didn't know what to do, because if they stayed 1-0, they would have won the game. They would have won the league. So they didn't know whether to attack or defend. And then I think with about 10 minutes to go, Michael Thomas had a similar chance where he hit the ball straight to Grobbelaar.
Yes, I remember
it. And even in the last minute, when he had that, Richardson tackled Barnes, and then John Lukic gave it to Lee Dixon. Still, to that day, I didn't think anything would happen. All I saw was Alan Smith, chest it and play it to Michael Thomas. And I didn't think, right, it's going to be 1-0, Liverpool going to win the league, and we're never going to see the league in my lifetime. No. But when the ball bounced off one of the defenders, and I thought, please, man, please. But on TV, I don't know what it was like in the ground, it was like slow motion when he left his book. And then, you know what's happened, right, is that you don't actually go up, because everyone I spoke to who lived in the neighbouring houses and the family members, we were in shock because we scored at that late time. We actually thought the referee was going to disallow it, because it's one of those things where we're in shock because what's gone on. And then when Michael Thomas is doing trying to do the acrobatics, when he's trying to do the handstand, and then my legs is hugging him, and then Nigel Woodburn, we just see Nigel on the TV. You can see Nigel running over to the middle of nowhere, and then you can see the bench. George Graham in shock. I thought, we done it. Basically, the whole house was rocking. After the game, I went straight to 6 Acres to go and knock for a mate of mine, because I thought this couldn't be happening. But as I was running towards 6 Acres, I could hear people screaming and shouting. And when I went to my mate, he was jumping up and down in his socks and his Arsenal shirt. And then his mate was there, and I thought, yeah, this happened. I said, right, we're going to Highbury. We went straight to Highbury. And when we went to Highbury, we actually ran, because if you're from Finchley Park, the quickest way to Highbury is to go from the end of Seven Sisters Road and turn into St Thomas's Road past the bookies, and then go from St Thomas's Road straight through Plimsoll Road and walk straight. And we went straight to Avenel Road. You couldn't move. Basically, everyone from South Islington, North Islington, Hackney, Camden, Cape of Islington.
I bet the Plimsoll Arms were ringing in everything.
It was like hundreds of thousands of people outside the ground, screaming and cheering, and thinking. And the common theme was, how did we do this? How? Why? How? Because it was one of the things where, as much as I love to be with you guys, I can't take that memory away.
No, exactly. Everyone's got their own memories. I remember young Liverpool kids, little kids crying, adults crying, but then certain Liverpool fans were coming up to us and shaking our hands, and when we were coming out the ground and stuff like that, and because it was all very emotional because of what happened that year to Liverpool. And in the FA Cup, so it was all quite raw and emotional, really. So you had a few mixed feelings about it, really. But no, it was a great time, and I don't care. And it had one of the highest viewing figures at the time, didn't it, on TV? It was on the TV, millions tuned in to watch it, absolutely millions. Yeah,
there it is.
And it made news at 10. That's the program.
Program.
Yeah.
Jess, the guy from Night of the Republic has asked one of the best questions ever.
Go on.
Yeah.
He basically said, question for the panel, also big lads. Do you think the level of football has fallen in regards to Irish players, Scottish and English players compared to yesterday? Yes, I do think so, because
I agree.
One of the things that I noticed that during the 70s and 80s, the Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and Republic of Ireland were relatively strong because they had players playing in what was then the first division. But with the sort of foreign influx, if you look at the foreign influx of football of players come to the Premiership, it's no coincidence that Northern Ireland, Wales at times, Scotland, and definitely the Republic have been weakened by the fact that their best players don't get a chance at the Premiership, and that they have to select players from the Championship. So yeah, you're right. The level has fallen because they're not getting chances. We're buying foreign.
When you think of the players they used to have, like Ian Rush, Mark Hughes, Liam Brady, all these great, even people like Ali McCoy for Scotland, great players, all really, really good. Kenny Dalglish. The list goes on and on and on. The players they've had over the years. It's true what Kenny says. They're not getting the opportunities now, unfortunately. And also they got rid of the nations football, didn't they? They got rid of the England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales yearly.
You loved that, didn't you? The home internationals. You loved all that.
Home internationals, loved it. Absolutely loved it.
That was good in the summer.
Yeah, that was lovely. That was brilliant. That was. Yeah.
He's destroyed us, Jez. Will you make still make videos discussing the history of other clubs. I don't mind doing that, but I'd have to do a lot of research because I'm not knowledgeable enough. I don't mind doing it with another fan like the Yeti, Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, Man United. They're the ones who've got. I'll just interview them; they can give you information. Because I don't know enough about other clubs, to be honest, and I don't want to be disrespectful to those other clubs. But it's something I'll look into. But
we all know some great players. We all know some great players that played for them clubs over the years. But we don't know about the ins and outs.
One I would like to do, actually, interestingly enough, is Newcastle. I've always had a fondness for Newcastle.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but it is what it is.
People.
AB says, thank you, mate, for your super chat. Prefer Wenger or Graham to come out of retirement. Yeah, well, I'd take Graham all day long.
All I will say to that, Jez, all I will say to that super chat there, if George Graham or Wenger would have been in charge last night, we would be in a Champions League final.
Oh, yeah. 100%. 100%.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Riku says, big up first, love to listen to you talk about Arsenal, even though I'm not a fan. Devastated for the proper fans like you because your club isn't moving like a big club. So true. AB, 80-odd-year-old George Graham, almost 6-year-old Tony Adams would do a better job at Arsenal now.
Yeah.
True. Absolute facts, man. We're going to wrap it up in a minute. This is going to be a two-part show. Two-part. We still got a lot to talk about with George Graham.
Yeah.
The next week, we won't be playing midweek because we're out of the Champions League. So, hey, what can you say? Pat Jennings, great goalkeeper.
Look at these players coming off.
Questions for you, gentlemen. Jez, please. Rat says, Jez, please ask Kenny if he's seen the old tapes of Sugar Ray.
I have seen some of his fights. He's been great fight, but I haven't really seen the old tapes. I need to delve through them because that's something that's on my bucket list to see a lot of his fights. Yeah, because as you know, I love me boxing as well, and there's been some really, really great fighters.
Sugar Ray Leonard.
Oh, Sugar Ray Leonard was just a genius, excellent fighter. The Four Kings: Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Tommy Zerns, and obviously the late and great Nagin.
The Hearns, yeah. See, we could have a little boxing chat, Kenny, because I believe that the boxers of today are nowhere near as good as the boxers.
I think, because the boxers today are not hungry. They don't fight as many times because they know they fight twice that they won't have to work again in their lives because a lot of boxers. Lennox Lewis is the best British heavyweight of all time by a mile and one of the best heavyweights out there. Yeah. There's that and that of it. But
no, mate, you're right, mate. And although that was a great fight between Eubank Jr. and Ben, it was a slogging match, and any boxer with any skill would have just picked them off at random.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they were wide open. There was no skill involved. It was just raw. It was just raw swinging. But if you was to look at the boxing actual fight and take it as a fight, any boxer with any skill and nous would have just picked them off. It would have been over within 5 rounds.
Definitely. But I think what's happening, their dads did better. There's a guy called Mr. Bait Red. Before we go, who's your favourite cricketer of all time? Because I loved watching it, because obviously I'm an England cricket fan. Ian Botham is my favourite ever cricketer. And currently my favourite cricketer at the moment is, believe it or not, it's not really in love with them, but I do have a soft spot for Ben Stokes.
Yeah, my favourite cricketer was probably Viv Richards.
You know a cricketer called John Snow?
Yes, John Snow is from Bognor Regis, born in Wolverhampton. His dad was a vicar, and he's one of England's greatest fast bowlers. He won the Ashes in 70-71, and I know you know him because he's based near you in Sussex.
He did. Yeah. And I met him once. I met him once, a few years ago. I don't know, it must be 6-7 years ago. It was
Talking of cricket.
no, I was invited to a corporate day at Horsham Cricket Club where they host the Sussex cricket team on certain games, and I was invited as a guest, and I went, yeah, I'll come down, you know, have a watch, and it's free food and free drink, and it was actually good cricket actually. Sussex were playing somebody Kent or somebody like that, and this guy was there, and really, really, really nice man, and I sat on the same table as him, right, and he was telling me, I mean, I don't know anything about cricket, to be honest, and he was telling me all about the game, what was going on. We're having our lunch as the game is going on. We're in this marquee thing, you know, and it was brilliant. And I actually won in a raffle a signed Sussex cricket bat, actually, and I actually put it into. I gave it. There was an auction going on at a pub, and I said, I don't want it. You just put it in an auction at the pub, and that's what I did. But yeah, it was interesting because this guy was so knowledgeable. Yeah, and in fact, I don't know anything about cricket. It was fascinating to sit next to him and talk to him. You know, so,
did he still have his curly hair?
Yeah, it was greying. It was blonde greying.
Nice one. Great.
He was a rebel. He was a rebel
away from this Arsenal.
Yeah. Anyway, gentlemen, we're going to wrap this up.
Yeah. Cheers, Jesse.
Cheers for having us on.
No, always, man. What's good for you next week? Tuesday, Thursday?
Tuesday for me next week. It'd be better.
Tuesday we do part 2. Next show will be the 1991, one of my favourite seasons ever. When we look into that one, because that was an amazing year. Heartbreak, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah. Gaza.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be a good football game season to talk about, actually. And Kenny, man, thank you always for joining.
Love it. It's good to do some nostalgia, but 1989. I wish I was up there with you guys. I wish I had the money at a ticket. But again, I did have that sort of that North London experience where you think,
I wish I was around North London. I never made it back. We didn't get back till the following morning because we missed our train, and the police advised us to stay in the cell for the night and not walk the streets of Liverpool because we just won the title. And he said it could be quite dangerous.
Actually,
story. They put us in a cell for the night. We woke up with toast, tea, and we was treated like kings for the night.
There must be Everton fans then.
I wasn't Everton fans. We had good banter, and that's a true story, guys. So that's the only time I've been in a prison cell. I've not been. But it was for a good reason.
You've missed out the experience then. I've been in a few myself, but
I've only collected people from like police stations. Never been.
Yeah, I was lucky not to get caught. That's the thing. I'm not saying I should have been in there. I was just lucky never got caught.
Anyway, gentlemen, as always, Kenny, you're a legend. Your knowledge is unbelievable. Thank you.
Big up, guys.
Please shout out your socials, please.
At Kenny Ken 1972, mostly and exclusively on Instagram because Instagram is fantastic. Met some lovely people I could have loads of chats with. So, please follow me on Instagram, and I answer every message.
You do?
He does. He's an absolute legend. Both of you is a legend. I've got a channel on its way. Hopefully, I'm going to do a few little things. Not going to go massive. Just I've got something in the pipeline coming up. So I will you know, do the link in due course. But I'm around on podcasts. And doing bits and pieces. You'll see me around, guys. And yeah, big up, guys. And don't let Arsenal ruin your summer. Life's too short.
Won't ruin mine. 26th of May, mate. I'm off for 2 months on holiday, so it won't be ruining my holiday.
Well,
but
that's the best time, Jess. That's the best time to take time off, you know. And then by the time you get back, it'll be pre-season training, pre-season money-making schemes. Where we look $1 million, and everyone thinks we're going to win the league.
Yeah. Oh, the new merch will be out. The new kit will be out soon, so everyone will be queuing up for forgetting about the season.
Interesting, that, gentlemen. We're off to Singapore. We're not off to Rwanda. Work that one out.
Isn't it?
Actually, we've got to play Spurs at the end of this month, isn't it?
We have, yeah.
Oh, can you imagine?
If Spurs might ring out their Europa Cup trophy when we play them, mightn't they?
Oh, this is Spurs, mate. Come on. This is Spurs.
Yeah.
And don't forget, parting comment, do not forget, Julian left an A-level exam to go to Anfield.
Yeah, of course
no
he
one
did.
leaves their A-levels. I'm going to give him.
Of course he did.
The fact that A-levels aren't taken in May in England, they're in June, is a bit of a misconception.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
We all get confused at times, and that's one confused man. But
bless up, everyone.
Take care, all. And
bless up the chat. Thank you very much, Kenny. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure as well.
Thank you very much indeed, my guys. Thank you.
I'll do the outro, and we'll catch you later, people. And part 2.
Stay safe. Bless everyone.